Yo guys, I'm back here making a video, and in this video I'm going to be going over the Misfits 10 card or the Prime card. I know I haven't made a video in a long time, but this influencer boxing card sparked my interest, and I just wanted to go over my picks, and I just felt like making a video since I haven't done one in a long time. And I might make more videos on the football season, and also the basketball season's coming up, so I might make some videos on that as well. But I'm not gonna try to give weekly picks like I did for last season, because that failed pretty early and I got burnt. Well, I just got busy. I didn't really get burnt, but that's all that was. But I'm here, going over the picks for this Misfits influencer boxing card. Yeah, I'm a huge combat sports fan, so I just wanted to hop on here and make, something on combat sports. I know it's influencer boxing, but I'll probably make more videos on boxing cards and UFC cards coming up. I know UFC 294 is coming up, so I might make a video on that. But yeah, I just want to go over my picks because this card is pretty interesting. Before I do hop straight in, I want to say that I did not research every single fighter on this card. The early fights, I'm not really sure. So if they're not completely accurate, I'm sorry. But once I get later on into the video and the card, I feel like my picks will be pretty accurate, as I do know a little bit about combat sports. I'm not a genius or anything, but I genuinely think I do know what I'm talking about whenever it comes to certain boxers, and I have watched a lot on the guys later on in this card. And if you see me looking over here, it's because I have each fight written down. But for the first fight, it's Chase Demore versus Tempo Arts. Like I said, don't really know too much about either of these guys. I did see the media workout where they were hitting pads, and I do know the build of each fighter. So Chase Demore seems like the taller guy, and Tempo Arts is the more short, stocky guy. So Chase is probably gonna have to try to keep him on the outside, and Tempo Arts is gonna want to get inside and throw those big looping power shots. But I did see the pad work, and yeah, it seemed like Tempo Arts looked a little bit better on the pads. But something I will say for Chase Demore, I've seen some of his other fights. I saw the one with Josh Bruckner. Whenever he was on the pads, he was throwing a lot of straight punches. He wasn't throwing looping hooks or uppercuts, which is good. Whenever you're the taller fighter, you want to throw straight punches to keep your opponent away from you. If you're throwing hooks, then you want to be on the inside, but you don't really want to be on the inside with a fighter that's shorter and can probably generate more power. So I think Tempo Arts probably can. But with that being said, I am going to go with Tempo Arts just because I saw him on the pads and he looked pretty powerful, and he just looked pretty slick with it. I mean, he didn't look amazing, but he looked good for this scene. So and I think this is also for the heavyweight championship in my Misfits. I'm not sure, but I think it is. I know it's a heavyweight fight, but yeah, I'm gonna go Tempo Arts. For the next fight, it's SX versus DTG, and in this fight, I don't really know anything about either other than SX makes music, and I actually like his music, so I'm going for SX. But I do think DTG has fought before, and I know SX hasn't. So just off of that, I'll probably go DTG. I didn't see them at the media workout. I'm not sure. Maybe I just missed it. But yeah, I'm going to go with DTG. But I will say that SX is friends with one half of the main event, that being KSI. So if he trained with KSI, even a little bit, I might be inclined to change this pick to SX. But who knows? I'm just going to stay with DTG for now. It can go either way, though. And then the next fight on the card is Astrid Wet versus Alexia Grace. I don't really know Alexia Grace, and Astrid Wet has been pretty decent of a boxer. She can take a punch, so I'm just going to go Astrid Wet straight away. But I don't know anything about Alexia, so I can't really speak on this fight, to be honest. But I'm just going to go Astrid Wet because that's who I know, and she's not amazing. She's not technically amazing. Like, she's not, like, the greatest, boxer of all time. This fly is pissing me off. She's not the greatest, like, boxer or anything like that. She's not really very technical. She'd be throwing punches like that, but she can take a hit, and that's pretty much all you need in this scene as of now. But yeah, for the next fight, it is Ryan Taylor versus Swarms, and it's a second fight that these two are having. It's a rematch, and I do pretty much from here on out, I know everyone on the card, and I feel like I can give fairly accurate predictions. As for this fight, I know a lot of people said that the first fight they had was a fluke because it ended in pretty much one punch. Swarms walked forward and threw a jab as Ryan Taylor was walking forward, and he ran right into the jab, and Ryan Taylor broke his orbital bone, couldn't see, went back to the corner and said that he couldn't see, and they called off the fight. Now, a lot of people are saying that that was because more so on Ryan Taylor being as active as he was. He had just gotten done with a brutal fight with Slim, and then he hopped in there with Swarms. Like, I don't even know if he got 2 months rest. I'm not sure like how long the time frame was, but it wasn't very long. And he hopped in there with Swarms, so a lot of people were like, well, he didn't give himself time to heal, which I agree with. But it's also like Swarms did his job. He broke his face. There's nothing to really say that that's a fluke. It happened. So, but as for this fight, I know that they are both heated. They don't like each other. I saw it in the face-to-face. I think it's a very interesting fight because Ryan Taylor most of the time is very hard to get out of there. Granted, Swarms did hit him with one punch and he broke his face, but that was because Ryan Taylor just was on an active streak and he just kept on fighting without giving him his body enough rest. But usually Ryan Taylor can take a punch and yeah, it's hard to get him out of there. Swarms, it's also hard to get out of there, but for another reason. Swarms, I'm not sure if he can really take a punch, but he usually does a good job at running away or covering up very well. He's not like defensively sound, but he is hard to get out of there because he just wants to survive, which are some of the worst people to fight is whenever they're just in there to survive. They're not really throwing back or anything like that. But I will say, as for who I think's more skilled, I think Swarms is a bit more skilled, but Ryan Taylor is a bit bigger than him. So, yeah, it's a toss-up in the air, but I just don't see a knockout in this fight, to be honest, because I don't think either guy, like, I think Ryan Taylor can absorb a lot of punches, and I think Swarms does a pretty good job at not taking punches. So I'm going to go Swarms just off of the skill factor, and I'm going to probably say Swarms by split decision. Yeah, Swarms by split decision. That's my final thing. For the next fight on the card, it is a tag team boxing match, which they've had before, and it's between Nick Lamau and Alex Wasabi versus Pineda and B-Dave. I know Pineda and B-Dave have had, I think they've only had one other tag team match, but they won that one and they looked pretty good in there. But this is such a dicey one because Nick Lamau came into the scene facing Jay Swingler, and a lot of people thought Jay Swingler was going to just run right through him. And yes, Jay won that fight, but a lot of people thought that he didn't, and Nick Lamau survived him and did a pretty good job defensively. So, yeah, he looked very good in that fight. And Alex Wasabi, I think, is also a very underrated fighter. Now, as who I'm going for, I am going for Pineda and B-Dave, just because the crowd loves him. Pineda is just amazing. He's the GOAT, just super cool. But I do think Nick Lamau and Alex Wasabi are going to get the job done. They're going to win on points. I just think that Pineda and B-Dave are just a little bit lower than them. But who knows? We could see a little bit of an upset. I don't think it would be too big of an upset. It's possible. But yeah, I got Nick Lamau and Alex Wasabi winning that one. The next fight on the card is two King Kenny victims in Whindersson Nunes and my mate Nate. Now, both of these guys have, I think they've only had, well, Whindersson Nunes has had 2 fights. He fought some random guy that I don't even remember. And honestly, I don't know if I should say this, but that fight seemed a little rigged going back and watching it, because Whindersson Nunes didn't really land and the other guy just kind of fell to the ground, and it looked like, I don't know, it looked a little suspicious. Looked like maybe a little bit of a rigged fight there. But that's just my conspiracy. And then my mate Nate has had 1 fight against King Kenny, lost in the 2nd round. Whindersson Nunes survived all 5 rounds against King Kenny, but he got destroyed. He lost all 5 rounds, and it looked like King Kenny was just messing around in there with him. As for who I think is going to win, I'm not sure. I know, obviously, Whindersson Nunes had a tough time dealing with King Kenny's range, and my mate Nate also has pretty decent reach. I don't think he has as big of a reach as King Kenny, and his jab is not as good as King Kenny's. King Kenny has probably one of the best jabs in influencer boxing, but my mate Nate still does have the reach advantage. I think he should try to keep Whindersson on the outside, and it's almost like a replay of the first fight that I went over. Whindersson's going to want to try to get inside, throw big power shots. My mate Nate's going to try to keep him on the outside. I do think my mate Nate's going to win this just over that fact. And also, I think the pressure got to my mate Nate in the first fight that he had against King Kenny. And I think, you know, after being in there one time, he's going to be a lot more calm, a lot more relaxed. And I think he'll be able to show his skill a little bit better. But I could be proven wrong. And I know the Brazilians won't like me going against their, you know, fighter. But I just think my mate Nate's probably got it just because of the reach. But we'll have to see. It should be a pretty interesting fight. For the next fight on the card, it is King Kenny versus Anthony Taylor. Another very interesting fight. King Kenny is on this card. I was just talking about him. You know, he's been on a little bit of a roll, but the thing about King Kenny, I will say, is he's a bit inconsistent. He has won a lot of fights and then went back and lost. He's had great performances and then just come back out and had horrible ones. I think he's lost 3 fights. I'm going to say 3 fights because I know they gave him the win over Faye Sensei, but everyone knows that Faye Sensei got robbed in that fight, and it was close. It was easily Faye Sensei won. Like, it wasn't even close. Like, people can sit there and argue, but Faye Sensei won that fight. Clear. It was a clear robbery. King Kenny, though, has won his last 2. He beat my mate Nate and then beat Whindersson Nunes, but he is facing a demon in Anthony Taylor, a guy that is an MMA fighter and has come over into this influencer scene. Probably shouldn't have been in the influencer scene, but he's over here and he has beaten a lot of guys. His last fight was against Salt Poppy, and he beat Salt Poppy pretty easily. And that's very interesting because Salt Poppy is later on in the card as well. And Salt Poppy is one of the most popular influencer boxers, and a lot of people think he's one of the better ones. As for this fight, it's going to be tough because King Kenny has the reach advantage by far, and King Kenny has such a great jab. He does such a good job at keeping someone on the outside. But Anthony Taylor is fine with taking punches and walking in and throwing big shots. And I just think King Kenny gets a little bit, like, once he takes a hit, he just gets way too defensive, in my opinion. He doesn't really throw other shots other than just jab. After he gets hit, it's almost like he's just jabbing to survive, not really jabbing to win, not throwing any other shots. That's all it is, you know? So, I don't know. I think it should be a pretty interesting fight. I just think that this is too big of a step for King Kenny as of right now. So I'm going to go Anthony Taylor. But I wouldn't be surprised if King Kenny get a decision over Anthony Taylor. I do not think King Kenny can knock Anthony Taylor out. I don't really know. Honestly, I am going for King Kenny, but I just don't think he can knock him out. So I think he would have to win on decision. So, which is very likely. King Kenny coasts to a lot of decisions in a lot of his fights. But Anthony Taylor does have power. He does have pop. So I think Anthony Taylor wins I think Anthony Taylor wins a split decision. Very close fight though, and it could go either way. As for the next fight on the card, it's the fight that I'm most excited for, which is Dean the Great versus Waleed Sharks 2. This is a tough one to call. Obviously, they had their first fight, and honestly, probably one of the better influencer. I don't even want to say one of the better. I would say probably for me, the best outside of maybe Gibb and Austin McBroom 1. That was another great fight. But Dean the Great versus Waleed Sharks 1 was an insane fight. Probably the best influencer boxing fight whenever it comes to skill and just excitement and everything. It's just such a tough fight to call. Dean won the first one. There was some controversy with how he won it. And a lot of people are thinking Waleed's going to win this one just because they go back and watch that one. They're like, well, Waleed was winning. And that's a fair assumption. Waleed had knocked Dean down like 2 or 3 times. But Dean kept on getting back up and kept on going right back in the fire. And then eventually Dean landed an overhand right, sent Waleed to the canvas. Waleed did end up getting back up to his feet, but he did not turn around whenever the ref was telling him to. And the ref called off the fight because he obviously wasn't all there. So I don't think there was really much controversy with the first fight. I think Dean won because Waleed wasn't turning around whenever the ref was telling him to turn around. And that is what it is. You can't turn your back to the ref. And whenever the ref tells you to turn around, turn around. You have to obey the ref's orders. And he did not. So, yeah, not really much controversy there. I think this is a very tough one because I will say skill. Skill-wise, I think Waleed is a bit more skilled than Dean. He's faster than Dean. I think his footwork's really good. And he's a really fast, good, technical fighter. But the thing is there's some things that Dean has that Waleed doesn't. Dean can take a shot. He can take a wallop and still get off the canvas and keep on going. Dean has heart. He's going to keep on, pressing. And I think Dean also has a little bit better punch power than Waleed Sharks. Waleed Sharks has a speed. Dean has the power. They're both very fast. They're both very powerful, though. This is probably going to be the most technical fight on the card. Very technical between 2 smaller guys. I don't know how to call it. I ain't gonna lie. If it's a knockout, I would be leaning Dean to knock Waleed out. I don't think Waleed knocks Dean out. If it's a decision, I think Waleed can coast to a decision. It's very interesting, but I gotta pick someone. And my gut's telling me that Dean's gonna go in there and want it more. I know a lot of people are gonna be confused and be like, well, Dean won the first one, so why would he want it more than Waleed? Waleed has shown and expressed that he wants the rematch and he wants the fight. Yes, but Dean has heart, and that you can't take that away from him. And he's fought through injuries and everything like that. And yes, his last performances hasn't been very good. He looks a little sluggish sometimes, but he has power and he has heart and he has a great chin. And I think Waleed, whenever the skill is so close, it goes to who wants it more. And I think Dean's going to want it more. That's why I'm going with Dean. But I will not be surprised if Waleed wins. This is such a close fight. But I'm gonna go Dean. KO. I don't know how many rounds it is. I ain't gonna lie. So 3rd or 4th round, probably Dean knockout. A TKO. Not a complete slump knockout, but TKO. That's how I'm gonna go. We'll see how it goes. I am going for Dean as well. I know a lot of people hate Dean because of his bravado and his trash talking and everything like that. I love it. I love people who trash talk, as long as they can back it up. And Dean has backed it up, so that's why I like him. So that's who I'm going with. We'll see. Very interesting. Probably the most interesting fight on the card for me personally. But yeah. The next fight is between Salt Poppy and Slim. Whew, another interesting fight. Both these guys have went down in weight since their last fight. I know Slim had to go down because he said that his cardio was bad in those higher weight classes, which is fair. And Salt Poppy has lost a tremendous amount of weight. So I'm very interested to see how he fights because he was fast before. And he was, he was fast before, very technical before. But after losing all that weight, I feel like he's going to be even faster. This is a very interesting fight, though, because Slim has more of the reach. Slim's about like 6 foot, and he's got a pretty good reach on Salt. But Salt Poppy is a bit more technical. He knows how to get inside. He knows that left hook from him. He's a southpaw, so it's just beautiful to watch. He has a great left hook, great right hook, works the body well, very technically sound. Yes, he lost to Anthony Taylor, but he showed himself fairly well in that fight. He didn't get absolutely obliterated. So, and he didn't get knocked out, so that's good. Slim, in his last fight against Tom Zanetti, was honestly a bit of an underperformance. So that's why I'm going to probably lean Salt Poppy on this one. But Slim does have power, very good power. And I think Salt Poppy is not as good as a lot of people think he is. I think he's amazing. And he looks great while throwing a punch, but I think that threw a lot of people off. I know some people were like, oh, Salt Poppy's better than Jake Paul in this scene or better than KSI in this scene. No, he's not better than either of them. I don't care what any of y'all say. Y'all probably going to lean to the KSI and be like, no, he's better than KSI. He's not. I can promise you he's not because, yes, Salt Poppy looks good while throwing a punch, but you can look good while throwing a punch and still not be the best fighter. You know, KSI doesn't look great while throwing punches, but he has power, and I think he would obliterate Salt Poppy. That's just my opinion, and there's no hate to Salt Poppy because I do think he is one of the better guys in the scene still, and so is Slim. But I'm going to lean Salt Poppy here. I don't think he gets Slim out of there. I think Salt Poppy unanimous decision. That's my pick. It's going to be a closer fight, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Slim can flash KO him. But I'm leaning Salt Poppy. That's where I'm going. It's in Logan Paul. And this fight is very interesting for a lot of reasons. Probably the most hyped up fight on the card, to be honest. The promo's been well done in it, and Dylan Dennis has probably taken it a bit too far with the promo. You know, talking about Logan Paul's wife, there's a lawsuit going on, so it's crazy. But as for the actual fight, I'm going to get straight to it. And listen, I might be wrong, but I don't care if I'm wrong. If Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis can still pull out, so who knows? And we know that he's pulled out in the past. But if Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis fight, it's over for Dylan. I'm sorry. I think Logan Paul is going to obliterate him. He might not knock him out, but he also probably will. I'm going to go Logan Paul easily. KO. I don't know what round. I think Logan Paul can do whatever he wants with Dylan Dennis, though. I think it's going to be a little bit of a sloppier fight, a little bit more of a hug fest. But I think Logan Paul is going to obliterate him. I don't see Dylan Dennis winning this fight. This is probably the fight that I'm most set on. Like, you could convince me any other fight on this card. You could convince me that the other guy wins, you know, out of all my picks. This one, I am not moving. I don't care. And if Dylan Dennis proves me wrong, then he proves me wrong. But Logan Paul, I think, is going to obliterate him easily. I think it's not even that close of a fight. I think people are trying to make it out. I'm like, oh, well, this is what Dylan Dennis can do. He can work the body. No, we can't. He's in there to lose. And even if he loses, he still won because of the promo stuff and everything like that. But I'm going to go Logan Paul. I trust my gut feeling. Logan Paul, KO. Not sure what round. I think it's either a 6-round fight or an 8-round fight. So if it's an 8-round fight, Logan Paul KO 5th round. I'm just going to stay on Logan Paul KO 5th round. I think that's whenever it's going to happen. But I think he's going to win all of the other rounds as well. Logan Paul could gas, though. That's something else about him. But I don't think it matters, because I don't think Dylan Dennis is going to be able to withstand the punches that Logan Paul is throwing. But that's just my opinion. We'll see. And if I'm wrong, I will eat my words. But I don't think I'm going to be wrong. Now is main event time. Very interesting fight in this one, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, interesting how? Because it's between KSI and Tommy Fury, and I know a bunch of people are pulling for Tommy Fury. Everyone knows deep down that Tommy Fury is the more skilled fighter, and he should win this fight. And I do too. I think he should win this fight. But I think it's a lot closer than a lot of people want to make it seem. KSI is a very unorthodox fighter. He does a lot of football moves. He darts in and out. He uses a karate stance, hopping up and down, explosivity, good power, throws very good shots. Like, if he lands one of those overhand bombs on anyone, it hurts. And it could knock anyone out. It could knock anyone on this card out with just an overhand. But Tommy Fury is the more skilled fighter. Tommy Fury is bigger than KSI. He's probably going to have to use his jab, keep him away, kind of like the way that he fought Jake Paul whenever he beat Jake Paul. Use the jab, throw a little bit of combinations. But the difference between Jake Paul and KSI is I think KSI's approach to this fight will be a bit better than Jake Paul's. Now, KSI could get knocked out with the approach that he's going, but I think his approach would be more apt to winning and not surviving. KSI is going to try to just fight Tommy Fury. Not box him. He's not going to try to be more technical. He's not going to be using his jab very much. He is going to go in there and he's going to realize, hey, I'm going to have to take a few shots, but if I get on the inside and throw an overhand and land it, you're done. And that's the best way of fighting Tommy Fury, and a guy that is more experienced and skilled than you, is to just go in there and fight them. Do not try to box with them. Jake Paul, he tried to fight him at certain points in the fight, but no, most of the time he was backing up. He was trying to outperform Tommy Fury, which was never going to happen. Jake Paul did drop Tommy Fury with a jab, and yes, it was a little bit of a slip, but he still dropped him. He still dropped him with that jab. So I think Tommy is very hittable. Tommy holds his hands very low. I think KSI can land a punch, the KO blow. I think it's a very interesting fight. I would be less surprised than a lot of these other people if KSI won. But I am going to go Tommy Fury. It's a 6-round fight. Tommy Fury could knock him out. He could very well knock him out. But I trust KSI's chin. I trust the fact that he's going to not want to get knocked out, obviously. So I'm going to go Tommy Fury by decision, unanimous decision. But I would not be crazy surprised if KSI could get it done and knock him out. But yeah, those are my picks for the Misfits card. I know this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. Sorry for going in depth as much as I should, but I'll probably review this after watching this card, because I will be watching this card. I'll probably review these fights and just see what's happened, what's going on. Very excited for the card, and we'll come back and see which ones I got right, which ones I got wrong. But yeah, that's it. Peace.